It's the first working day of the new business week here in Nigeria. Welcome to Business Incorporated. I am boasting of live to you from Channels Television. Coming up, all markets around the world are now open for trading after the long Christmas holiday, and that includes Broad Street here in Nigeria. We'll get to the markets later on the program. And as the year gradually draws to a close, African entrepreneurs are finding opportunities despite the harsh economic conditions. Plus, cotton farmers in Nigeria call for better government policies and improved seedlings. Now let's get started, as usual, with the markets. Global markets open for business today after the holiday to make Christmas celebrations. Here in Nigeria, the all-share index of the NSE is in the green. That's about 0.73% early today. And the South African market, as about an hour ago, was about 1.68%, now about 1.64%. The GSE all-share index around 50,209, up more than 800 basis points. The Egyptian market also tracking the Nigerian stock market by 0.75% at 12,267.31, about at 12 o'clock Nigerian time. The Kenyan stock market, however, that's the Tuesday figure there, 0.1%, 131.91. Let's cross over to the Gulf region, where the markets edged up in early trade Wednesday, in line with the global major markets. News from Saudi Arabia's petrochemical producers leading the market. You can see the Saudi Stock Exchange about 0.1%, which surged 1.3% on Tuesday to a new high for the year. Was just that a little bit weak in the first 15 minutes of trading. Now look at the rest of the figures. The Abu Dhabi market was tracking the Saudi Arabian market. The Dubai financial markets, however, 0.63% in the red, while the Qatar market 0.5% heading south, 10,305. So in Europe, investors are keeping an eye to see if stocks will follow the optimistic tone on Wall Street after the Nasdaq Composite setting the closing record on Tuesday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average remained tepid, not yet over the 20,000 markets there. We'll see what the market's looking like in Europe today, as all the markets are open, including London, that was closed yesterday as well. Ulrich Batz is DWTV financial correspondent for Channels Television at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Ulrich, a good afternoon to you. All the markets are in session now, including the London Stock Exchange. So would this make investors a little bit more bearish or bullish, the sentiment in the final trading days of 2016?
Well, if you talk about the sentiment, then the sentiment is certainly bullish. The share prices don't reflect that because it is a very quiet week news-wise, and lots of traders are not at their desks. They're skiing somewhere or enjoying beaches in, let's say, warmer climates, having a holiday vacation. And it's the end of a very turbulent year. Lots of investors don't see much reason to move share prices one way or the other. But people think that the relatively high share prices that the market is enjoying at the moment are at just the right level, and that's why it's not bearish. I don't think there's any danger that this market is going to come down until the end of the week, and people are happy about the share price levels as they are, record levels or near record levels in the United States, and annual highs being seen here in Frankfurt this week. And what's supporting that is the expectancy of U.S. growth in the next year with Donald Trump taking over as U.S. president, accommodating monetary policy and solid corporate earnings with very many big corporations around the world.
Yes, Ulrich, it looks like those are the economic headlines and news that perhaps will form the basis for sentiments in the new year when everybody's back on the block, on the trading floors, on the street, and looking for bargain in the new year. But very quickly, let's review this outgoing year as far as the emerging markets concerned. What's the view of investors in Europe about the big emerging markets, China, Japan, and the rest?
Yeah, Yeah, well, China certainly provided a shock at the beginning of this year, 2016, and I think that's still one of the topics that's sort of flowing under the surface of the water throughout the year. People very worried that China will slow down. And it's not an issue at the moment, but people are talking about this when the microphone is off, if you will. It's a matter of concern. Other emerging markets, of course, have seen a terrible year. Nigeria is one, of course, you know all about that, where the plunge in the oil price since 2014 and the oil price level plunging at the beginning of this year caused great problems. Now, the oil price has recovered, as have other commodities. So I think the outlook at the end of this year towards emerging markets, economies, stock market and economic growth prospects are looking a little bit better. But certainly there's also some worry
of the companies running into any serious trouble. Towards the end of the year, corporate news seemed to taper off a little bit. So if we get any, we try to sink our teeth into it. So the French drug maker Sanofi and the U.S. Novo Nordisk are in the news today. The battle is still ongoing. Aside this, what other corporate news are making the rounds? I'm sure Toshiba was one of the big news out of the Asia-Pacific region, a massive down south for that particular company. Who else is making news in the corporate world today?
I think news, if you will, is the share price development in the steel industry, and that's a very interesting one. The steel industry was one of those industries that was hit by the commodities fall and by the difficulty in many emerging market economies. Now steel shares have recovered this year, and today they're quite buoyant, and for the past weeks they have been quite buoyant. And when you look at the German market or the European market, steel shares have been among the best performers. ThyssenKrupp, they gained about 25% since the beginning of the year. Salzgitter, which is a smaller German firm, gained about almost 50%, and ArcelorMittal, the world's biggest steel producer, gained a whopping 140% since the beginning of this year. So I think that's a major corporate story out there this week and really reflecting itself in the market as well.
Yes. Thank you, Ulrich, for that. We'll take all that in our stride as we count down to the final 72 hours of trading in 2016. What a year to contend with, as it were. Ulrich, find time to have a cup of coffee. We understand the weather in Europe is a little bit, if you get some sunshine, do appreciate it. Around here, a little bit cloudy in Lagos. We're around less than about 30 degrees here in terms of temperature. Thank you, Ulrich, from Frankfurt Stock Exchange for Channels Television. Okay, dinner time in Asia as we speak. The stock market was mixed. In South Korea, it was down as the political scandal grows more entangled, and Toshiba plunges 20% on a possible write-down of several billions of dollars related to its Westinghouse unit. Japanese Nikkei 225 wavered between trading positive and negative, trying to find direction, and closed flat at 19,401.72. That's a shade of 19,500. After data showed that Japanese industrial production rose by 1.5% in November from a year earlier, lower, however, than a forecast for 1.6%. Look at mainland China, where the markets were negative. Both the Shanghai Composite and the Shenzhen were down in detail, almost the same margin, 0.39%. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng recovered from earlier losses to trade as a major gainer in that region. That's about 0.5% by mid-afternoon. And in South Korea, the Kospi was down by 1% as the East Asian country remains mired in complicated political crisis involving the President Park Geun, who has been impeached. And just before we came on air, there was news that one of the ministers is being now being probed on corruption charges. Australia, all the way down, ASX 200 rose 1.01%, sidestepping the rest of mainland Europe for today, Wednesday, the 28th of December. Okay, it's early morning hours. U.S. Wall Street is waking up to the stocks index futures pointing to a slightly higher open today. The figures are not significantly different from where it finished off on the main market on Tuesday. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average, well, to see what happens to the 20,000, if that will still happen. Some folks say it may still happen. We have 3 days to prove that. On the data front, today we'll see the release of the pending home sales data. That to be 10 a.m. Eastern, as well as mortgage applications expected at 7 a.m. Eastern. Look at the S&P 500, 0.2%, and the NASDAQ, about 0.5% in the green. African businesses face a lot of challenges in 2016, not least a slowdown in many of the continent's economies, but many have been finding ways of attracting new interest and pushing their products and services. This is one report you need to watch.
From struggling to secure capital to winning clients, African entrepreneurs faced challenges in 2016, but many thrived despite it all. Diana Sherman left her home in Missouri, United States to return to a post-war Liberia in 2010 and started a fashion business. She says it wasn't easy at first, finding her grandmother's house riddled in bullet holes and having to run generators all day to do the work.
It was an opportunity to have a nice space for people to be able to try on clothes, to shop comfortably, to not have to barter on your prices. And it also was an opportunity for me to show people that Liberians could set up a nice establishment.
In Kenya, Dorothy Gatuba was on set with her team, filming an episode of the series Sumula Penzi, a Swahili for Love is Poison. Kenya wants to boost local content to at least 40% on the country's TV stations, and Dorothy's taken advantage of that, but says being a woman presents an extra set of challenges in the business.
Being a woman in this industry, I think producers, whether male or female, will always face the same challenges. You know, we're all looking for money, we're all trying to produce, we're all trying to do the best that we can do. But it is always going to be a bit more difficult for the woman. And the woman tax, that's what I call it, like I pay it.
In Nigeria, Wilson's Juice Company made lemonade for sale following the government push to get people to buy more Nigerian products after a fall in the Naira, blamed on a plummet on oil prices.
People are clamoring and hammering about devaluation of the Naira, the economy slowing down, so many things going wrong, and we just see this as an opportunity. We've seen it for years, but now we believe this is the time for us to really shine.
Ugandan entrepreneur Sharon Nisima made bags out of banana fiber to try and promote the country's fight against polythene bags. The country banned plastic bags in 2007, but there have been some challenges enforcing the ban.
I wanted to fight against polythene bags. You know, polythene bags, they take long to rot. My paper bags, they can not even take a week to rot.
And here's a strawberry farm in KwaZulu-Natal's north coast of South Africa, a region generally said to be unfavorable for growing the fruit. Zolani Gumede pumped in over $1 million into the venture 3 years ago and says growth has been around 250% year on year.
If it was easy to grow and easy to sell, everybody would be doing it. The fact that not many people are doing it tells you that at some stage there's a high element of risk, and the risk part of it is the production side. The sales part, the strawberries really sell themselves.
In neighboring Zimbabwe, here is Jennifer Rupia, one of the few women carpenters in the country who sought after her skills. Jennifer used to sell snacks to carpenters before starting Charliewood Investment 6 years ago. She later became an apprentice and went on to try her hand in the male-dominated trade.
At the end of the month, I can make sales of up to $2,000 US. I have a payment system whereby clients can pay a deposit and then settle the balance after an agreed period of time. So in a week, I can make sales of between $500 and $1,000.
Jennifer wants to encourage other women to follow her lead and challenge themselves, even in areas considered a preserve for men, and so they too can become successful entrepreneurs and at the same time help change perceptions about women.
That's about business in Africa, isn't it? But we'll be back to the markets in Nigeria after the break. We're having our first trading day of the week right now.